Greetings Summoners, Cosmic here, and welcome back to another gameplay video of BSS 01. Today we're going to be featuring the Elk Machine Beast list versus Gigano Rex or just Dinosaur Beatdown. Starting off here with a Nexus from myself, just trying to get that, turn 2 Elk if you ever hit it, and then our opponent played a Flame Rat, which I really like that little guy in general in red, because on going second allows you to draw a card, which is always great for just replacing itself, and then helps with your, early reductions. Glass Bear is probably the go-to, early drop for white because it gives you that extra core that you desperately need, and if you can keep it around for multiple turns, even better. Also puts you just in a situation where your opponent doesn't want to attack. However, red can get us into the block zone with Confront. It's going to do exactly that, and I just am going to go ahead here and get rid of the Glass Bear, get our core, and hope that our Pegasus can keep us up. But I also had a second one, so more ramp, all the better. Now, in this version of the list, I was using Charged Draw and Depths, the Purple Nexus, just for some draw. But quite honestly, going forward, as someone who's spent quite a bit of time working on various white lists, and to be fair, I've been mostly focused around, Elk Enterprise, and, more of the control strategies. I haven't done much with Dual Dyna yet, but it doesn't just flow as well as you'd like. Compared to the other colors, white does leave a lot to be desired from a mostly mono build. So I think going forward, if you want to build an elk deck, you probably do like the Nexus, Glass Bear, an Elk, Suppression, and like one more early 3-drop, I guess, and then everything else you want to have purple. So like maybe 6 white cards and everything else is purple and or red. So same thing as last turn, going to get the Confront, and then also our opponent's going to get to draw another card. We can't afford to lose our Pegasus this early because we can put a bunch of cores on it and block multiple things, hopefully on the following turn, but that Flame Rat has already given Primitive 2 card draws, which has been really nice. However, thanks to him attacking us, we're able to play the Enterprise very, very early, and this is going to be one of the best blockers that we have access to. Now, one of the downsides, especially in this matchup, is that it only goes up to 12k power, and you have a couple tricks to push it higher than that. But in your more Gigano Rex style of decks, it's very easy to go over that battle power limit. Whereas if you're playing Star Dragons or something, other than Nova, a 12k wall with double block and immunity to red is pretty strong, or armor red I should specify. Primitive knows that he doesn't want to have to deal with the Enterprise, so just building out some more core reductions here, which is going to be great for lining up his Gigano Rex, or for when he can finally get enough attackers, because Enterprise is only 2 blocks, just to be able to go wide enough and smash through our board. And here's our depths. Our hand was not looking great, unfortunately, and we had Enterprise as kind of a backup, so we were trying to play out this depths and force our opponent to, if they attack, at least we can get some card draw out of it. But again, with the Enterprise, they're probably unmotivated to attack here anyways, and then he had the Burning Force to kill it off. So just a very, very strong card out of red, being able to destroy Nexus or hit 2 3k bodies. But, blowing up our Nexus that we had to pay the full 6 for feels pretty bad. Megatrice I really like here because it helps filtering. It can also help against the early rush strategies by bouncing a 2-cost or more at level 2. But this is another card where, I'm probably on the fence of, is this part of the white splash that we include or not? Because, again, the bounce effect's good, the filtering effect's good, but the battle power of it leaves a little bit to be desired. Scorched Battlefield allows Primitive just to power up his units even more with that plus 1k, which is also going to be a very real threat if he can, once he finds an out with the Enterprise, like through Gigano Rex and just buffing his board, those 2 other Confront pairs he has can be quite dangerous for us. Another Charge Draw, just trying to find more pieces, but again, having to pay the full 4 for it does feel pretty bad. And I think this goes back to, if you did a white splash in something, so with red you'd have Volcanic Canyon, you could make your charge draws cheaper and try to find your big threats that way, or if you're playing purple, you have things like Dragonaga Assassin, which just draws you cards on attack plus curse, and things of that nature. So there are quite a few good options for drawing cards once you look outside of white, but at that point it's kind of the question of, is it worth splashing white for these cards in general, or is it just better off playing, a more focused red or purple strategy? And here we finally get our Elk online. It is going to have the level 2 effect, and Enterprise is also protecting it, so our opponent can't just volcanic break it away. Now here's a major play mistake on my end, and this is more of just messy board states and not really paying attention. So I put the Soul Core on my Elk because I want to, in my mind, tell myself, okay, this is going to be my suppression target because after block it's unkillable, and suppression allows it to block multiple times for the rest of the turn. But the problem is, if you take off the cores, as I'm going to do here in a couple following moments, I lose a level 2, which means I don't life burn him. So I have enough cores on the field to just do this and still get suppression, still get the full value, but it's a very, very messy board state, and I do apologize for that because, you know, in a tournament, that would not fly by any means. So definitely need to do a little bit better on my end, keeping the proper board state and making sure that I'm paying attention to where all my cores are at. Odin is a card that I've been very on the fence about. Like, in some matchups, it's the bee's knees, and it's everything you want it to be. In other matchups, it just feels deader than dead. So I still think you play 2 in your main deck and maybe 2 more out of the sideboard, and this would be another great card for you know, that white splash that we were talking about, because it's pretty easy to do, and you're going to have white nexuses anyways to restand it. But if you see more like the all-in aggro or just yellow 2-cost rush stuff, it can be a very good card to really break up their board state. And here's where the Gigano Rex comes down and things start to get very messy for us. So he's going to swing, which is going to cause a confront, and I'm going to suppression. So the way I should have done this is just swap the cores off Odin and Elk, for example, because we still would have had everything that we needed, and the Enterprise is still giving us protection. So from if we did it proper game state, right, it wouldn't have mattered. But this is just testing. This is kind of the first time trying to run out some of these decks, so please just be mindful in your own games that where you're placing your cores does matter, especially if you lose that effect on your opponent's turn. So here's where he gets a wide board. He gets a second Rex. I do the same mistake again, but again, same exact board state. You play the suppression. Our opponent takes a damage off of the Elk, and then we go into our turn, and we just keep building up the board the best we can. And here too, if we had like an absolute ice shield, right, our opponent attacks with the first thing. It doesn't really matter what it is. We absolute ice shield, and then they lose on the spot. So suppression, ice shield, and Elk is, as a control player at heart, coming from other card games, is like, these 3 cards scream to me that I want to play some type of stalled deck, and Elk can do it. But I think that ultimately you need to get away from the more mono white focus. As I splash obviously 2 non-white cards, but I'm calling this more of a mono white focus for the point of the video, and I think you just have to get away from that. But Bridget is another card that has been quite nice in testing, surprisingly, like maybe a bit better than I thought. Just having that bounce and freeze option available to you in a stall style of deck is pretty nice. Now obviously Gigano Rex gets the full reduction value, so our opponent can just easily replay it without concern. But in some of your other decks, like going against Michaela or Baduk, where it is quite costly and they can't deal with that on destroyed effect, you can really surprise your opponent with Bridget. So this is the turn that Primitive knew he was just kind of dead on board. He just has to do all the swings, and here we're able to bounce the Gigano Rex that hasn't swung yet because of her on destroyed ability, freeze down the other one, and then here we're just kind of like doing the math of, okay, how many blocks do you, or how many attacks do you have? How many blocks do I have? Because right, each Enterprise is 2 blocks, plus the Elk, plus Mechatrice is bouncing a 2-drop, plus Odin is dropping, bouncing a 3-drop. So even if he swung out with everything, and maybe he got like 1 life, and I think it was actually exactly even, if I remember correctly, but even if he swung out with everything, we just have a single attack on the crackback and win that way. Going into game 2, we have Rocket City. I gotta say, this card has been not all that exciting for me, and I've only played it in a couple games so far, but maybe I just need to build in more dedicated ramp, but it just does not do enough, in my opinion, and you like have to get it in multiples sort of thing. But I definitely could see a meta where more of these become relevant, and you really do just have 4 Rocket Cities that you're bringing out of your sideboard or something, or maybe 2 main, 2 side. So not the greatest start for me, just a couple Nexus, but thankfully our opponent has a slower start as well, so we're just building out reductions. He gets the Rad in here, doesn't have the draw because he played the Nexus instead. It allows us to, again, right, we have Rocket City, so we're not motivating him to playing some draw cards. Megatrice, again, being one of the best early blockers for white decks that you could ask for, because it's going to help you filter, and it also threatens bouncing a 2 if they try to swing for only 2 cores, which is really nice. And again, the Rocket City here was like, okay, do we keep it on, or we would try to build out another cost reduction, because I think I had Enterprise in my hand at this time, and I was like, okay, I need 4 reduction for Enterprise. And unfortunately, our opponent is just going to say, well, you know what, you took off the cores from Rocket City, I am just going to go ham this turn. And that's exactly what he did. So great filtering turn for Primitive, getting another Canyon on the board just to really try to dig deeper into his deck for Gigano Rex, or maybe some extra, just hitting more draw effects too can be nice, just to make sure you're having all the right pieces you want. So we do hit the Enterprise, which is nice. Getting it early is usually a good sign for you as a white player, but the problem is it just blocks and it doesn't really do anything else. It's not really the best attacker because you want to save it for the refresh effect. So unless you have a suppression in your hand that you can get value out of, or if you're playing like Holy Elixir to restand it, it can feel pretty bad. And I gotta say, Sacred Thundering Peaks, oh man, this card, and I didn't record all the games that we did for this matchup, but just in general, he told me afterwards it was a 1-of, which was like extra insult injury, it felt like. But Thundering Peaks is a sick card. Just getting to restand Gigano Rex or any confront, like big boy confront guy, is really, really good value. And yes, I think you only ever play 2 of it because it is situational in the fact that you have to have confront and you have to put the 3 cores on it, so you want to see it in the mid to late game. But it is a very, very strong card for the Gigano Rex deck, and even some like good stuff red decks, right? But obviously Gigano Rex himself having confront and then being able to boost your board again is getting the most value out of it. Yeah, and our opponent definitely living the oops all Nexus dream here, has all the cost reductions, and at the end of the day, we're not beating 2 Gigano Rex. Now he does have to see if he wants to have the core draw in here, because again, he's going to attack with Gigano Rex. It's going to restand on his next turn, so he could attack with 1 Gigano Rex because it's going to be big enough. He has the Volcanic Canyons, so it's just free. We get a core ramp, but on the next turn, because he's committed those cores already, he's going to be able to just restand and just destroy our board. So now this Enterprise, when staring down 2 Gigano Rex and a Thundering Peaks, he's not doing anything. Like, I'm in very much danger in this situation, and as a white player, you're like, well, I'm supposed to be the big guy with the walls, and unless you have Elk, which can just freely block them, you're in a bad spot. So I have, I think I actually ran the full playset of Elk in this deck, and I could not draw them to save my life. So here's where we realize that we just have to attack with it because we lose our Enterprise no matter what on the next turn, and we have an Absolute Ice Shield. So yeah, technically we can just activate the Ice Shield, try to live that way, and just play the chip life damage. But I mean, this is a very losing board state for us as the white player. Raging Dino is also another very solid confront spirit to use with the Canyon, because you can blow up 2 things. So, I think a lot of people, I don't want to say underestimate, because I definitely think it's like Gigano Rex is behind Star Nova, but I think it's a very solid red deck. Like, just having all the card power, all the destruction abilities, you're in red, so you get the Nexus destruction. The core card that we just got spoiled is also insane. Like, just red in general is very good, but I think there is something special to just having access to Gigano Rex, and being a 13 or 16 or 19k attacker is going to just delete boards if he gets to stay on for multiple turns, plus the Thundering Peaks. Now, on the other side of this, if they were going against purple, obviously their cores would be a lot more limited, because they can't just die to core theft for 1, right? Like, purple does have some very solid answers here, but against non-purple decks, and just being able to put on 1 little core for Gigano Rex and get full value is very, very insane. So love. Actually, I enjoy playing every deck in red, which is, you know, coming from other card games. I usually have one or two that I just don't like, colors that is, to play, but I've sincerely enjoyed playing every single deck so far in Battle Spirit Saga, other than white, and that's more of a I like what white does, but it just doesn't feel strong enough in set one sort of thing. So digging for our Mecha Trees, or using our Mecha Trees to dig again, trying to find, honestly, I'm not even sure what at this point. So again, Enterprise can attack, sure, but we're not getting out of this board state any quickly. So, you know, Elk obviously would be great for blocking. However, the Peaks is going to restand it. I was thinking about going for a Bridget here to buy us a turn because we can bounce one Gigano Rex and freeze the other. But ultimately, we're just going to be too far behind for it to matter in this board state. And then I also forgot, as I was kind of like doing the math here and looking through my cards off the top of Mecha Trees, the Thundering Peaks is just insane. And then just, you know, why not? Let's just have the third Gigano Rex. So yeah, this is we're going to proceed to scoop phase at this point, because I don't think there's a board that, you know, other than multiple core thefts, right? I don't think there's a board that lives against this. And then going into game 3. So again, core reduction cost, couple Nexus early plays, pretty standard. Raptor into drawing 2 for primitive. Red gonna do red things, and then on top of it, yeah, why not throw 2 more cores on Scorch Battlefield, draw another card. So yeah, casual, you know, 4 draw card turn for our opponent. Pegasione just trying to build up the cores, make it a 7k blocker in case he tries to go wide. But again, otherwise kind of not exciting. And here's just me trying to figure out, okay, if I want to spend the cores, how low does it go? Is there another thing I can play? But not really. And I guess not for now. I probably should have attacked there just to get into chip damage, just to shorten the time on Elk, because we knew that it'd be very difficult for him to swing on this next turn through our Pegasione with the on-block ability for level 2 or level 3, I forget which it is. Again, us just trying to play a Depths, our opponent immediately answering it, and also now our Pegasus here is going to be a lower BP because he has the Scorch Battlefield as well. So admittedly, this was just a huge misplay on my part. I mean, it is what it is, but I think my hand was just not great at this point anyways. Like, yeah, if I definitely had the Elk, I would just windmill slam it, as it were. But no, looks like we're going to go with a Odin, which again is going to be great for the bouncing of multiple things from our opponent's deck. And we also have the ability to be aggressive. Since he already used 1 Burning Force, there's no way that he has, I shouldn't say no way, right? But it's extremely unlikely, because they're not playing Andromeda, for example, that they're able to blow up our White Nexus. So this should just be a free attack for us. We get to bounce his bear back to his hand. And now we get to chip away another life. And here he is just curious on the wording for Odin, because it is start of attack step, and then the Nexus that we have gives our guy plus 1,000 power on our opponent's turn. So second Scorched Battlefield, powering up his units more, replaying the bear, and playing a Fault. And just some core management on our part, moving things around, making sure that Odin is as big as he can be, bounce his guy back to his hand again. And then we also have our Glass Bear for defense, try to ramp another core. So I think this is one of those spots where it shows that Odin can be pretty good. And maybe there is a Mech Lord deck that I want to play that's like, you know, 4 Odin and 4 Mech Lord, just to try to get in that damage, and then Mech Lord gives you the last 1 or 2 points of damage. But not having the draw in white or a way to, you know, recover your hand in general feels pretty no bueno. And so Primitive does get the Gigano Rex, which is going to be the biggest of boys. And of course, once more, he has his Thundering Peaks. So we're going to block with Glass Bear. We're going to ramp a core. However, he is still able to attack here. It's going to force our other Odin. It is not a May ability, so I couldn't even like just take the damage. I lose Odin here no matter what. And Primitive has a very scary board state, because at this point, no matter what, he's killing 2 things on our board every turn, plus swinging through for damage. Another Brigid coming out for us. Again, I've loved this card, at least in some light testing so far. I'm not sure where the best list for it is, but just being able to bounce and freeze something, it being destroyed can also help you in some situations against purple with like Deadly Balance. Here he has a Volcanic Break, so he's just able to pop it anyways. And here we're just like confirming effects. So yeah, he pops the Brigid, but again, he has enough core reduction, so the Gigano Rex is just free. You know, not actually free, but might as well be free for its effect, and he's able to still leave those cores on Thundering Peaks to restand his Gigano Rex. So again, here just being able to push us down to 1. Or sorry, have the Ice Shield, so it would have been pushed down to 1, but eventually we are going to run out of Ice Shields to protect us. So charge draw, trying to find an answer. So nice, we do it twice. And then we hit a not good enough 4-drop, as it were. Like, it had pretty much had to be Elk from this board state, but even then, you know, the first attack, Rest Our Elk, it doesn't die, but he still swings with Gigano Rex, and I think this just really goes to show the power of it. Like, a Thundering Peaks and a single Gigano Rex is going to be able to delete a lot of boards and give a lot of players a hard time. And here's just showing, like, you know, 4 cards to his, effectively 9 here at the end. So it was a pretty rough match for us. So thanks for watching, everybody. Again, hopefully more gameplay videos, and I did fix some of my editing templates and whatnot, so hopefully this can be the card images stocked in going forward. Make sure to like and subscribe for future Battle Spirits Saga content, and I'll see you in the next one.